Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's up, Lock Shop? Big time Friday edition today with the fellas. Hus with you along with JBM. P. Greggy, I think he's probably, I was going to say he's probably traveling. He's probably just hanging out at the airport waiting to see any private jets showing up.
I don't even think he's traveling, but he is at the airport. He's waiting for that Ohtani jet to land. So
that is right. Dusty's going to jump on with us in about 15 minutes or so. And we will get to our NFL best bets of the week. But Jake, it's very rare. In fact, some might say a unicorn day on the Lock Shop, because I'm not sure there's ever been a Friday where the NFL slate has literally taken and played second fiddle to other news. But it sounds like Ohtani's on his way to TO. Well, like I'm sure you're just like me, like cranking your Twitter feed every 15 seconds for the latest. But how are the vibes around the big smoke right now?
Listen, if you don't feel you're getting my full attention, it's probably because you're not. I've got 3 screens going. Obviously, the show right now that we're doing here. And then I got my Twitter feed up. You know, I obviously have the chat going. People are talking about Ohtani in the chat. Said, put the flight tracker on screen, Trev. So they want the flight tracker. Anywho, it's a wild day. Yeah, I mean, hopefully all the stuff that we're hearing, you know, on the good side is true. It's funny when you're in a scenario like this, and it's rare for us Jays fans, but you know, you're sitting here and you're reading only the good stuff, and you only want to believe the good stuff that you read, because anything else is just, it has to be nonsense, and this has to be his flight, and you know, the Kikuchi sushi dinner has to be, you know, to celebrate and all this crazy stuff. So, you know, I'm excited. If it's legit, I mean, what a moment that would be for all of us, you know, Toronto sports fans, and for Canada sports fans, because, you know, it is Canada's team. It's Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm excited as ever.
If this happens, it is far and away the biggest sports signing in Canadian history. And I don't even think there's anything close to it. Franchise altering for the Blue Jays. From a business standpoint, if Rogers gets this done, an absolute game changer for their operation when it comes to their Major League Baseball team and their media operation as well. And in a lot of ways, I think will forever change the perception of the Toronto market when it comes to Major League Baseball. Listen, they're not at the finish line yet, although things look really, really good. And I know the odds have been off at Coolbet for a little while. Even some other books that have been having updated. It is off the board now, folks. So I hope you got your bets in. And Jake, to think of where we are today, and I'm just opening up my open bets. This wager was placed, what was it, so when was November 27th? That was last Monday.
Monday, yep.
So to think that last Monday we were talking about this in the Lock Shop, and we're still able to get the Jays at 25-1. Later on that day, down to 5-1. But that number has just crept down and down and down. Earlier today, for the first time, the Jays had a minus number before theirs at some other books. The Dodgers were at minus 120. I think Jays at minus 110. And I always say, follow the money. I mean, the books, whether it's Coolbet or any of the other ones in the space, they've got risk involved when they're throwing numbers out. So there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. And it's very clear that since we talked about this last Monday on the Lock Shop, momentum for the Blue Jays has just grown each and every day, to the point where you could have a big party in your town tonight.
Well, that's the thing. And you know, the part of the issue, I think, is you get a bit of tunnel vision when you are a Jays fan. You know, you're seeing those good reports and you're really hoping that it's all true. But I mean, we really haven't heard about momentum coming from anywhere else. At least I haven't. Like, we saw what happened with the Dodgers and Roberts going out and saying, they met with them and it was great meetings. And that was part of the issue that he didn't want coming out. The report that the Jays met with him did not come from the Jays front office. It came from, an outside group saying, the Jays did meet with him in Dunedin, but, nothing was ever confirmed on that, like 100%. So, yeah, you don't really know what to think at this point. But obviously with it coming off the board, like you said, it's been off a cool bit for a little bit, but every other book that was offering it's off the board there as well. And, you got to think that Morosi tweet that said, the decision's coming likely today. It's probably coming today. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight if we don't hear, into the late hours of the evening, but hoping that plane lands and he's sitting in the office and they're taking the picture and he signed the deal. So that's what I need to happen.
Lock shoppers and Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners will know that I am the president of the Kikuchi fan club. I did not give up on him after 2 seasons ago. I still have the clips. And listen, if this happens today, we will be going in and packaging some of it. My conversation with JD Bunkus before the season started, imploring him to believe in Kikuchi, who then came up and had a monster year. I've also tweeted this out, folks, if you want to check it out, at Hustlerama, a video from a few years back of Ohtani and Kikuchi, I believe in their old high school, kind of interviewing each other. I wish I knew Japanese so I could understand what they were saying, but it doesn't really matter. These guys are close friends. And the more and more I think about it, can you imagine if when they got Kikuchi, like this was literally 4D chess by Jay's management, knowing that he might be a major asset to them when Ohtani's deal eventually came up. And by the way, I know you've seen probably this news on Twitter that Kikuchi has booked a private restaurant close to Rogers Center for a party tonight of around 50 people. I know there's a lot of people that said, oh, this is a party for his wife's birthday. I know Rumi. I follow Rumi on Instagram, Kikuchi's wife. She's born on June 24th. So it is not a birthday party for Rumi Kikuchi today, folks. It could only mean one thing.
The one guy who tweeted that it was a surprise party and someone had blown it up. He's the ultimate Blue Jays troll. I don't know if you follow that guy, Spencer. Ultimate Blue Jays troll. So I don't take anything he says truthfully. So, if that's what people are running with, and that's what people are running with. But I think it was an opera singer that had tweeted out that the Kikuchi had booked this sushi restaurant for, upwards of 50 people. And I don't know what to think anymore. But Hus, the one thing that I keep coming back to, when this major piece finally does fall, like what is the domino effect when it comes to Toronto? How many more players are interested in coming and playing in Toronto with Ohtani? If Ohtani ends up in the blue and white, and what does the team look like next year? All of a sudden, we really haven't seen a lot of the big names. Obviously, we saw the Soto deal with the Yankees, but that was a trade. That wasn't a free agency signing, and a lot of names have just been waiting for this piece to fall. Like, what could this team possibly look like next year if Shohei Ohtani is at the forefront?
Yeah, like this year, the following season, the season after. Yep. This guy's the number one star in the sport. And if he does decide with Godfather offers from pretty much every team in the major leagues, decides to go to Toronto, to your point, I think it completely changes the way a lot of people around the league think of Toronto, and most importantly, other players. And if you want to go to a place where you're going to be paid well, treated well, live a great lifestyle, and win, following the footsteps of the number one guy in the sport, probably not a bad thing to do. I'm getting a kick out of the out of some of the chats in the nasty chat here. Senior Boots, forget betting, bought a bunch of Rogers stock yesterday. Nicely done. And Surveyor Brett, I never use all my data, but still pay my full Rogers bill every month. I'm doing my part. Ohtani watch. Like, let's face it, the beers at the Rogers Center might be $35 a pop next year, Jake, but I think everyone will be happy to pay even more inflated prices for tickets or whatever if it means that this guy's going to be wearing blue for the rest of his career.
Well, listen, I don't know, and people will not know this in the chat, but after that playoff debacle, we'll call it, just how poor it was, managed, and how undisciplined they were, and just not being able to manufacture any runs, and it's quite embarrassing. I said I was boycotting the team. I told my girlfriend, I said, listen, I'm done. I'm not watching this team next year. I'm going to find other things to do. It's the summer. It's a nice time of the year. Like, I'm not going to spend all my time watching this baseball team. If Ohtani signs with this baseball team, I will not miss a game next year.
Yeah.
I don't care where I am. I'm not missing a game.
Honey,
Like,
plans have changed.
This
I'm
is
busy
the
for
easiest.
162.
162 days. I'm busy next year. Like, and she's like, well, no, you can't go back. I said, absolutely, I can go back. I got the team tattooed on my arm. I got them tattooed on my arm. Okay, I can do whatever I want. So if I want to boycott the team, I'll boycott the team, and if I want to watch every single game, I will.
I would have loved to have heard that conversation. Honey, I'm done with the team. I'm out. Not watching next year. Fast forward to today. Listen, I know we were going to go on a date tonight, but I'm just going to be hanging out with a sign outside Rogers Center. Welcome, Shohei, to TO. Obviously, I mean, the reports are that this plane's in the air. I think it's planning on landing, scheduled to land in and around 4:30, 4:40 Eastern time.
Yeah.
So we'll just be finishing up Winnipeg Sports Talk today. But needless to say, the amount of interest in this is really unlike anything I've seen before. I guess in your market, I mean, the Kawhi Leonard, will he stay? Will he go? That was kind of drawn out for a while. And that, of course, was coming off of a championship. This is a very different situation. But as I say, the stakes in so many different ways beyond anything that we've seen before. And if the Blue Jays can get this done, the most significant signing in Canadian sports history, period, done. And we move on. It'll give us a lot more fun conversations around the Blue Jays in the offseason if this happens today. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Yeah, the
looks like you got to address some
forget
things,
everything happened at all. We did, yesterday was not a great day. Although Dusty and I did go head to head on those Kane props. And I don't know if anyone was riding with me on the under 0.5 points, but that was a nice little plus 139 takeaway. And that Jet game, my God, the WST parlay. I still think Scheifele probably should have had an assist on Ehlers' goal. Morrissey scored later on. Everything else came up, though. And a big, big win for the Jets last night. So that was nice. But as I say, we're moving on from Thursday to NFL picks coming up. But Ohtani watch, which is basically taking up all of the oxygen in the room right now. And you don't normally say that on a Friday heading into a big NFL week.
Yeah, no, listen.
Cowboy, just quickly on that. This is exactly what I was saying. Cowboy, I think Scheifele touched the puck behind the net on Connor's goal, robbed of an assist, and the WST parlay. We need the 4K HD slow-mo zoom on the play. I am with you, Cowboy, and I thought the exact same thing. We'll take the win, though, and big one for the Jets now. They're knocking on the door of first place.
Listen, I want to defend you guys, too. I mean, obviously, people aren't happy with how yesterday's results went, but the month of November was unbelievably good for the lock shop. I mean, this is what happens in sports betting. If you expect to go into every night and win, then you're in the wrong hobby. You're in the wrong, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, listen, you guys already hit an NHL parlay this week, and we're going into the NFL where you guys shine. Like, I don't think anyone should be too concerned. It's not an every night thing, but when you're hitting at the rate that you guys are hitting in November, everyone's going to be just fine. So let's keep focused here, folks. Yeah. Head down, and we'll keep moving forward.
Listen, it's all positive vibes in the lock shop today. Whether you were on the Ohtani 25-1 from last week, or just getting ready for a big NFL week, we'll get to that. Speaking of the NFL. And I promised myself I wouldn't watch very much of that game yesterday, especially with the Jets starting 45 minutes after. But I imagine you're not too pleased with how good the Pats looked last night and getting a big win to potentially screw up your draft pick. Bailey Zappi looked like Tom Brady for the first 20, 25 minutes of the game. Then someone reminded him that he is, in fact, Bailey Zappi, but they had enough to beat Mitch Trubisky and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pats actually looked pretty good last night.
Yeah, listen, I was back and forth between that and the Leafs game, obviously, and more the Leafs game than the Pats game because you know how bad they've been. But every time I'd flip back, you know, Hunter Henry's celebrating a touchdown, and I'm another one sitting there with an under ticket. I actually had gotten earlier in the week at 32.5, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like all of a sudden the Pats decide they can score the ball, and you know, 3 touchdowns in the first half, and then obviously, like you said, back to a pumpkin in the second half, but it was enough to hold off the Steelers. Yeah, I was a little frustrated. I wanted the loss in terms of the draft pick. I think they're still holding that number 2 spot as of right now, 3-10 with the Cards there. But yeah, not a game that ideally you'd want to win as a team, you know, with hopes of a high draft pick. But you know, if I'm helping out some friends in the process, I know, you know, Patty's a Bills fan, and you know, Pittsburgh losing is big for, you know, Bills fans and a lot of other fans right now, then you know that's all right with me. But hopefully that's the last win of the season for my Pats. That's all I'll say on that.
Well, and listen, I don't know if there's any Steeler fans in the chat right now. If there are, I don't know what to say. That's a team that has kind of overachieved. They've found ways to win all season long. And then right when you think their schedule opens up for them, they were 7-4 with home games against the 2-win Cardinals and 2-win Patriots, and they lose both of them. It's just devastating for Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin's squad, Jake, when you consider where they were at. They had other teams lose around them. And this is exactly what teams like the Buffalo Bills needed, the Denver Broncos need those 7-5 teams to lose. And we'll kind of get into the other matchups, but I mean, Pittsburgh's put themselves in a very precarious situation right now at 7-6. And you look at their remaining games at the Colts next week, home to the Bengals, who are right back in it now after their big win in Jacksonville on Monday night, and then at Seattle and at Baltimore. I think that the opportunity for the Steelers, if they wanted to be a playoff team and cash those futures, was the last 2 weeks. And those are devastating losses for Pitt.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know the extent of Kenny Pickett's injury, but it doesn't feel like Mitch Trubisky is necessarily, you know, option A as your backup quarterback. I mean, we saw some of the throws he made last night were, you know, missed targets by a lot. I don't know if you noticed some of those throws that just were overthrown by like two-person height. Like he need his receivers to be, you know, every receiver to be the size of Calvin Johnson or something. I don't know. He was throwing some wild balls yesterday. He's lucky he didn't get picked off more often than he did. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one down the stretch. The AFC is a wild race right now. It feels like everyone's in it, obviously, outside of the Pats. You know, a few teams down at the bottom. I can't remember exactly who's down there, but you know, any team with 5-6 wins right now is in the mix.
It is crazy. And man, there's a couple big games. Well, first off, let's just quickly talk about this Bills-Chiefs game. You know, it opened up, I think, Chiefs 2.5. It's now -1.5. And of course, you know, Kansas City lost and whatever. There was all that business at the end of the game against the Packers. But great game by Jordan Love. Huge win for Green Bay to put them into a wild card spot in the NFC. And the Bills, I mean, this is last call for the Bills. I mean, if they want to show, I mean, they had a great game against Philly, but they didn't win. They miss a couple field goals. They only kick a field goal in OT and they lose. To me, it kind of feels like a playoff game for the Bills. And meanwhile, after the Chiefs lost, I mean, it's a huge game for Kansas City because with Jacksonville losing, with Baltimore in their situation, when you look at their schedule, they've got some really tough games. The Chiefs still have a very, very good chance of finishing number 1 in the AFC, but they have to have this game if they want to do it. And to me, I know we're going to get to Philly and Dallas on the Sunday nighter, which is another one of those marquee games. But man, Bills Chiefs, the games over the last few years have been legendary. And it really shapes up for, a tough pick, first of all, when we're talking about against the spread, but also a game that the entire National Football League will be glued on.
Well, listen, things don't bode well for the Bills either. I had a stat I was tweeting out today from the Coolbet account. I think Mahomes in his career as a starter for Kansas City, 18-3 off a loss. So not often are you going to see Mahomes lose 2 games in a row. And then add Arrowhead's another factor. And yeah, it'd be tough for me to get bet against the Chiefs this weekend. But the Bills are technically the hungrier dog, even though the Chiefs coming off that loss. It'll be an interesting one. It got to be the game of the afternoon. And then we got the game of the evening. Obviously, Sunday Night Football is going to be another great game. So, I'm looking forward. It's a big weekend, and a lot can shift. We got a ton of teams playing for huge movement in the standings. Like you said, the Bengals 2-point spread against the Colts. The Jags looks like it might be off the board right now, but their game is huge, and they're playing the Browns. The Browns need a win. It's going to be an interesting weekend, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm always excited.
Well, speaking of those teams, we may as well get into some of our picks right now. And I'll just get right into it. One of my first best bets are those Bengals. And I said 2 days ago on the Lock Shop when we were looking at this game, and Indy was a 1-point road favorite. I said to Dusty, I'm pretty sure by the time we do our show on Friday that this line will have flipped or at least be a pick 'em. Well, it's done more than that. It's moved 3 points. And the Bengals are now 2-point favorites at home against the Colts. And I'm on Cincy. To me, that game, what can you say about Browning? A legendary game for an undrafted player making their second start, over 80% completion percentage, over 350 yards. He looked incredible. And here's the thing, since he has enough playmakers and defense and experience, I think, playing in playoff type games and playoff games the last few years, like they know where they're at. And that win, as double-digit underdogs on the road against a 9-3 team, it reminds me a lot of Minnesota's win earlier this year against the Niners, where it was a scheduled loss. Everyone thought that they were done. And when you flip that around, it completely changes the outlook for Cincinnati. They're coming back home. The fans will be there. And here's the other thing, Jake. No Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. I love Minshew. Big Minshew guy. Had to start him last week in fantasy. Came up big for me. But listen, the Colts have been a great story, and they've run, 5 in a row, I think, right now. But at the end of the day, this is not a team that's they're going to OT against teams like the Tennessee Titans. To me, Cincy, we all wrote them off when Joe Burrow was done. But if they can get even middle of the road quarterbacking, never mind anything like we saw Monday night against the Jags, this team, I think, ends up being very live for the playoffs and wins this game. And even though, I got it at +1 earlier in the week, I don't mind laying the 2 right now. Comfortable anything up to 3 for the Bengals at home against the Colts in this game on Sunday.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my picks as well, Hus. So I think immediately, unless Dusty has, and folks, Dusty will be here soon. I know some people in the chat just got here. He will be on with us here not long. I assume
he's refreshing now. Twitter and checking flight patterns.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on the Bengals, though. I think that probably will end up being a pick in the partner parlay. And I saw that line, and you look at the Colts, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. But I think I was 1 week early. I did say Titans last week on the show, and it did go to overtime. It did almost come down to that just the end there, but. Yeah, I think Bengals, I'm definitely going to be right with you. Speaking of Dusty.
What's up, boys? What have I missed? So, Ohtani signed yet? What's going on here?
He's in the air, Dusty. He's in the air.
Boys, this show this morning that we had was just like the tweet came out about the flight, and then it went off the rails for 3 hours. Like, I can't believe something's going to ruin this, right? Like, this can't be
100%.
Ohtani's flight to Toronto, right? Like, it just – I sort of barged in here. I know you guys are doing picks, but you guys must have talked about Ohtani already, right?
The first 20 minutes is just all about the fact that it's
people were mad. We weren't addressing yesterday's losses. People were mad about that because we were just talking Ohtani.
Well,
just talking Ohtani.
Them covering the over in the first half was just the worst thing ever. I was like, "Are you serious?" And then I thought there was a chance that there was going to be no points scored in the second half. And they were going to cover the 31 just based off the first half. And then the Pats didn't score any points. And I was like, man, this is ridiculous. So that was a bad one. That one hurt. But the Ohtani thing, by this afternoon, we should probably know, right? Like, I don't know how this doesn't end up with the Blue Jays at this point. Nobody's even talking really about anybody else, unless it's changed in the last 30 minutes since I was in a meeting. Like,
That's exactly what I said to Hus. Like, every report that comes out is just the Blue Jays continue to get steam, picking up steam, and no one else. Ever since that Dodgers Roberts came out and was like, "Yeah, we met with them," the Dodgers, it feels like they've completely fallen off, and it's been all Blue Jays. But I was saying to Haas, maybe it's because of the tunnel vision. Maybe the LA reporters have different reports, but yeah, to me, it's all Blue Jays right now.
Listen, there hasn't been much about other teams. Anytime there's been anything on this, it's basically brought that Blue Jays number down. And Dusty had a couple of the books that still had lines out earlier today. It was down. It was for the first time at any point in this, the Blue Jays had a minus before them. Minus 120 for the Jays, minus 110 for the Dodgers. And it is now off the books everywhere.
I know.
So it looks like something is done. Rosie saying
I gotta check today. Richard Croft in the chat just said MGM has Ohtani at minus 10,000. I don't know if that's true. I gotta go check MGM. Anyways, you guys keep going, but I gotta check that.
Yeah,
for Jays.
That's what he said. That's what he's saying. He said bet MGM on Ohtani to Jays open at 2-1 and is now minus 10,000. I don't know if that's
now's the time to play it, boys. That would be insane. So anyway, Ohtani Watch continues. Like the oil stream today, coming up in 30 minutes, is going to be Ohtani Watch. Like it's the
Ohtani stream.
Yeah, this is just it's amazing. Like today did you guys talk about? You must have the Kikuchi and the sushi restaurant all booked and everything. My God,
you know what?
Dusty, there's nothing you could bring up that we haven't talked about. We've covered it all.
No, did anybody mention that we had jokes on our show this morning that it was actually just the Ducks trading John Gibson to the Maple Leafs, and that's the flight. That's the flight today. So that would be
some guy finishing up his golf trip with his buddies.
Yeah,
and they've got a PJ and they're heading out there.
Exactly.
Well, from all sounds of it, it's going to dominate all of our conversations. And I'll tell you what, if that can be the way the Blue Jays fans go into the weekend, finding out that Ohtani is coming north of the border, it'll be an all-time memorable day. And as I said, Dusty, for those of us that got the 25-1, that was only last Monday.
Was that just last Monday?
November 27th. I just checked the bet in my open bets. And like later on that day, it was down to 5-1. But that was right around the time people started saying, you know what? Maybe there's a chance that the Blue Jays are that team. And I said, whatever I get, I think it's 500 coming back if he does sign with the Jays. That's going to be split. I said I'd put it all into Ohtani merch, but there's going to be one Ohtani jersey and there's going to be one Kikuchi jersey because we all know that Kikuchi is the guy. They're friends. Who would have known that the biggest win all season long for Kikuchi wouldn't be in the amazing season that he had, but in the off season helping them land Ohtani?
We need a 2-hour lock shop today. Like, I don't know how we're going to get to a partner parlay and all our picks. Like, I'm reading tweets here from what I assume is Dodgers fans. I'm not diving too deep into it, but they're like, if the Dodgers don't get them, I hope it's the Blue Jays. Yeah, of course you hope it's the Blue Jays because we never play you guys. So
I was going to say, of course they don't want it to be the Giants.
Yeah, you don't want it to be anybody else but the Blue Jays. But also, as a Jays fan, I want it to be anyone. I don't want it to be anybody but the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I don't know how could you even want it to be anybody else.
With the way that it's trended here, I mean, I said 2 weeks ago when this really sort of ramped up, I was like, I know my heart's just going to get broken along the way. And now we're like walking down the aisle here. It's like, and Ohtani's, we're standing there waiting for Ohtani and he's halfway down the aisle and you're like, I can't believe this is happening. And then, somehow somebody else is going to come up and take him away from us. I just announced this already.
Does anyone object?
Yeah.
Does anyone object to this signing?
Dave
Rogers.
I love you. You can't marry them. So anyway, we'll follow along with Ohtani Watch. But where were you guys at on the picks? I got in. You guys were talking Bengals. What have you guys laid out?
I was just getting into it, and I realized that we have gone so long talking Ohtani. We are somewhat under the gun, or at least I am for WST. I've just taken the Bengals with the first pick.
Okay.
And remember, Dusty, I said earlier this week They were 1 point underdogs at home, and I thought that would flip by the time we got to Friday.
It flipped by 3 points, hasn't it?
It has gone by 3 points. I still like them at 2, though. I think the Colts are due for a loss. I think the Bengals, even on a short week, have such a boost from that game. I think they win. I like them anywhere if the line – I mean, I prefer not to have 3 because obviously you've got the chance of a push. But even if it went to 2.5, I'd still be laying on the Bengals. Bengals -2. I was going to take the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns are 3-point favorites right now at home against Jacksonville. But I'm just looking at Trevor Lawrence in practice. And he is out there. He's throwing the football. I think they're going to give it a go. Now,
what?
It's a pretty dangerous team. That's a pretty dangerous team to, go out there on a bum leg with Myles Garrett tracking you down. I think I still lean Cleveland, but the bet is the game's off the board right now.
Yep.
Because of this for sure. So I think I would just leave that. And if anything, if Lawrence does start, I think we'll see that line go from 3 for Cleveland to 1 or maybe even a pick 'em. So if you're thinking Cleveland like I was, hang tight on that for a little bit more clarity. I'm also going to go with the Jets. +3.5. Zach Wilson is back. It sounds like he's really does have the support of a lot of people within the team, at least. CJ Stroud and the Texans have been such a great story this year, and I could absolutely see them winning this game. But with the Jets defense, Wilson back in there, and again, it's not like Zach said, a world beater or anything like that, but he is better than Tim Boyle in anything they've been throwing out in the last few weeks. And again, we're getting 3.5. This just kind of feels like that Denver game last week, to be honest, where should be relatively low scoring with that Jets defense, stay in the game. Russell Wilson had the opportunity. Well, it was 4th and 2. They were down 5 instead of down 3. So that's why they ended up not covering the number. But I just feel like the Texans are going to be in another close game this week. Jets at home with that defense. I'm going to take the points with the Jets at +3.5. And I'm going to roll with the Cowboys. I mean, we've talked a lot about Philly these last few weeks, and they've dodged a lot of bullets. And then they got whooped last week by the San Francisco 49ers. And this is the biggest game of the year for Dallas. They've beaten up on teams that are terrible. They finally got a win against a team with a winning record against Seattle last week, although Seattle, I guess, after the game is at 500, but looked really good doing it. And I still think they should have won that game earlier at the Link when they lost by 5. They made a few mistakes that really did cost them, but they played really, really well against Philly. So I'm on Dallas. Now, it's -3.5 at -102. If you want to just get it at 3, it's -119. And 2.5, which might be something you'd put in a parlay, is at -135. But for the picks, I'll lay the 3.5 for the Dallas Cowboys for my third pick. And then I just have to, I'll confirm, Dusty, we'll get into your picks, and then I'm going to add one more game, as I say, because this Browns game, my original pick, is off the board, and I'm not too sure what to do with it, knowing that Lawrence might be playing.
Okay, yeah, I can whip through mine. I am on Cincinnati with you, Hus. And I'd fully support a Cincinnati tossed into like a money line as part of our partner parlay if we want to go there or even take it down a little bit. So I do like Cincinnati. I think there's some momentum coming off that last game. Maybe things have clicked for Browning now, and it's like, okay, now he's not going to play at that level all the time, but I think there's got to be some sort of confidence level with Browning that could go a long way. And you're right. I mean, are the Colts going to run off 6 in a row at this time of the year? I highly doubt that. So I do like Cincinnati. I'm with you on that one. I am going to get on my beloved Detroit Lions, -3.5 on the road against Chicago. And I know you'll say, they were in a tough spot last time, but Goff threw 3 interceptions in that game, and they still won by 5 points. I don't see Goff going into Chicago and throwing 3 picks again. So I like their chances of actually winning this one somewhat. Justin Fields always has that X factor that could scare you a little bit. But I do think Detroit scores at will here against the Chicago Bears. And as long as Jared Goff does not turn over the ball as many times as he did, what they have to score 17 points or whatever it was in the fourth quarter to come back in that game and win it. But they should have never been in that spot, and Jared Goff will not throw 3 interceptions again. So I'm going to get on the Detroit Lions -3.5 on the road against the Chicago Bears. I know I was on the Chargers last week, and they actually ended up covering, even though they only won 6-0. But I'm not going to be on them this week. I'm going to get on the Denver Broncos. I'm actually moving that to +3, and it's still -119. So I'm going to get on the Broncos at -119 on +3 on the road against the Chargers. I don't know. Have you guys checked in on what the hell happened to Austin Eckler? Austin Eckler has done nothing for like the last month. He's been an absolute fantasy killer. He's supposed to be their best offensive weapon, and he's just doing nothing. Yeah. What do you got there, Jake?
I watched football with my buddy the other day, and he goes, "Watch how slow Austin Eckler runs." And so we sat there and we watched it, and then he was showing me another clip, and he's like, "It's unbelievable. It's like he has no speed. Watch him run. He has no speed. He doesn't hit the hole with any acceleration, nothing. It's very like dull, boring. Like I don't know what happened. You're right, Dusty. He's one of those guys. He's a first round pick in your fantasy leagues,
yeah.
And he's done absolutely nothing. That line, how fishy is that line, though? I mean, speaking about fishy lines, Broncos were hot right into the Houston game. They lose the Houston game by, a last drive that they
could have covered and won. Yep.
And the Chargers looked nothing special against the Patriots last week. Trust me, I watched too much of that game that ended 6-0. And then the Chargers, it's not like home field advantage matters for the Chargers. They're usually getting out cheered at home most nights anyway. So yeah, I might take the cheese with you, Dusty, because it feels like they're dying for us to take the Broncos there, and why would we be getting points with the Broncos, who are a big of a race as the Chargers are for that the AFC playoffs? But I think I'm with you. Most of what you guys have said, I'm kind of on board with. Like the Jets, why are they only 3.5 point dogs against a Texans team that is as hot as ever? And I think I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys on basically everything. I don't know what we have.
I got one more, and this is just a gut feeling that I've had over the last day or so, and I'm going to get on the Bills here plus the money against the Cats. I know, Hus. I know. That's why I'm saying it's just a gut feeling. I just can't get over the fact that I feel like the Bills are going to win this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll take them at 1.5. I mean, I don't know, Hus, are you not worried about the Chiefs' offense? Like, I know it's Patrick Mahomes, and he can turn you into a 800-yard receiver if you did. I feel like Buffalo, and I know the Chiefs' defense is unreal, but I just feel like Buffalo not necessarily outguns them, but outproduces them in this ball game and wins it. And it's one of those things where, oh man, that's awesome for Buffalo, and look at what they've done. And at that point, they'd be at 7-6, and the Chiefs would be at 8-5. And it doesn't matter because come playoff time, you're still going to side with the Chiefs anyway. But I feel like this is a really big game for the Buffalo Bills. And I don't know. I can't get off of it in my mind. So I just keep thinking the Bills are going to win this football game. So I'm going to take them at plus 1.5.
It's like a playoff game for the Bills.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And with Pittsburgh losing back-to-back to Arizona and the Patriots, there's another spot that's seemingly there. I could totally see. Well, I think that the Bengals are going to beat the Cincinnati is going to get that win over the Colts, and you'll have 2 more 7-6 teams. So you're right, the Bills can do it. Although we all know what happens when the Bills play the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Chiefs win, and Patrick Mahomes, as Jake just rolled out, 18-3 after a loss. And this is a huge game for Kansas City. Make no mistake about it. I mean, they want to have the annual Arrowhead Invitational, a.k.a. the AFC Championship game in Arrowhead once again. They got to win this game and stay there with the Baltimore Ravens if they can. It should be a great game. Listen, I think it could go either way. I'm going to ride with the Chiefs in this one, but it's too tight to be one of the picks. Looks like the Browns are back up at 3, which again is very interesting when you think about what you would normally have with Jacksonville. And with their record, but an injured quarterback coming off that win, short week. I still do like the Browns. What do you guys think about? I was originally going to take the Rams plus 7.5 against the Ravens, and I think
I was just about to bring it up.
Pardon me.
I was just about to bring it up. Go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought.
So I think I am leaning that way, although I do have some rough memories of backing both Detroit and Seattle at bigger numbers against Baltimore in Baltimore earlier this year, and both of those teams got absolutely massacred. And of course, the Ravens are coming off a bye week as well. So it is a tough spot for the Rams, but that's a pretty big cushion to get a plus 7.5 for a team that has fought their way back into the wild card spot in the NFC.
Yeah, here's the trend for you, Hus. Ravens 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 games as a favorite of 7 or more.
Oh.
And oddly enough, Ravens have also been bad after their bye. 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 seasons, despite all those games being at home off the bye. So, I mean, the signs do point to the Rams. I think I like the Rams as well. I think, Puka was banged up last week, but, I think the Rams, have as much momentum as anybody right now. I think they can definitely go into Baltimore and give them a game at the very least. So that's another one I'm definitely on board with. A lot of options to choose from.
Okay, well, you know what? Listen, I'm going to be betting it, and I already have it in on another ticket at plus 7.5. But as they say, of those other 2 games to make that final pick, I think I still do like Cleveland, but I'm not going to bet it right now. I have a feeling if there's any sign that Lawrence is playing, I think we can at least get it at 2.5. So yeah, we'll throw the Rams in at 7.5. Certainly after those trends you just mentioned, that makes me feel a lot better about a pick that I did like right when the lines came out early on.
All right, so what are we thinking for a partner parlay here? Jake, what else do you like on this board? Like, I think we're all seeing it kind of similar here.
A lot of them. I think if we're going to go Bengals, we want to go money line, I think. Yep. If only minus 130, I think we're still going to get a nice number with the boost. So I think if we're all on board with that, I think definitely Bengals money line.
I agree with that. Hey, Hus?
Big time.
I think obviously we probably keep Bills out of it. I know Dusty likes the Bills, but
no, it's a gut feeling. I totally agree. I would not put him into a parlay. Every time I think about this game, I just see the Bills winning. So I'm totally we're not throwing in on a parlay for sure.
What do you guys think about this? We take the Lions from 3.5 to 2.5, and we do the same thing with the Cowboys. And we put that with the Bengals money line. Like it's minus 135 buying the point in both of those games. So Detroit minus 2.5. And that's a real significant point going from 3.5 to 2.5. I mean, this game could absolutely be close, could end with a field goal. And I would say the same thing for Dallas, although I think I'm more confident that Dallas covers the 3.5 than I am in Detroit. But if we take those 2 to 2.5, Cowboys and Lions, put it with the Bengals on the money line at minus 130, it comes out to plus 436. So with that boost, we'll be getting close to 5-1 on that one if we wanted to go that route.
Jake, where do you come out on the Cowboys? Did you chime in on this? I know Hus mentioned it earlier. What do you think of that Cowboys-Eagles game?
I didn't have much thought on it. I was on the Niners last week, and they shredded the Eagles pretty good. And I do think the Cowboys deserve to win their last game against the Eagles. If we're talking about a team, I just worry about the Cowboys sometimes.
Being the Cowboys?
They tend to just like they beat up on bad teams, and then we remember those games and we're like, oh my God, like Cowboys, powerhouse. And then they go into these games against good teams, and it's like, they just can't close it out. They can't, I don't know. Like they should beat the Eagles, right? I mean, I think we all agree they should beat the Eagles, especially after, the last game against the Eagles. I just worry about, it's stuck in my mind that they beat these bad teams and they struggle against these good teams. That's the only thing I'll say on the Cowboys. I can get on board with it, absolutely. I am a little concerned. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I know you and I are both liking the Jets plus 3.5 at home against Houston. Dusty, if we put that one in there, along with Detroit at 2.5 and the Bengals money line, comes out to plus 488. So we'd actually end up well onto the plus 5-1 side after the boost.
Oh, I don't know. Like
what about What about the Rams? Where did you come out on the Rams, Dustin?
Yeah, no, look, that was one of the games that I was looking at, and I didn't hesitate much. I mean, I probably would be it. Yeah, I like the Rams plus 7.5. I like
plus 485.
I think you guys know I'm a big CJ Stroud guy. So I know, and this might be because I need him to come up huge in fantasy this week. So I'm hoping for a big week from CJ Stroud. I know it's tough against the Jets D, so I'm a little bit hesitant on that one. The Cowboys, I just worry of them becoming the Cowboys against a good team, but I do like that more than the Jets play. But I think I like the Rams plus 7.5. I think I like that even more, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, if we put the Rams at plus 7.5, we get the point with the Lions and take it to minus 2.5. And put the Bengals money line on it plus 485. So again, right in that sweet spot for the lock shop. We should be, plus 525, 530, sure, something like that once Ev Dog gets his hands on it.
Yeah, and listen, we're gonna get, we have a money line, we have a favorite on the spread, and we have an underdog on the spread. How much better does a parlay get, Jen?
Got all of our bases covered there. Right? That's a nice.
All we need is a total. All we need is
Ohtani to sign with the Jays, so nobody cares all weekend.
Yeah.
God, Hus, you have
people won't forget.
Yeah, Hus, do you have big Ohtani plans on Winnipeg Sports Talk today or what?
Absolutely. Well, Feinberg's going to come on, and I was originally going to be talking. We might not even get to John Rahm. We might not even get to John Rahm.
God.
And we haven't even mentioned it yet today on this show either. But yeah, who cares? We're focused in on Shohei. So he's going to jump on with us. And of course, the legendary Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, former play-by-play voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, with his usual Friday visit. We'll see what Saw's got to say. And then a whole bunch of stuff from last night's big Jets win in Colorado as they creep to within 2 points.
What a win!
At the top of the Central Division.
What a win, buddy!
Yeah, Dusty, we didn't really get to any Oilers talk, but
I'm gonna lay out an EST parlay on the oil stream coming up. I've got it in here. I mean, it'll basically be the basic. Connor McDavid gets a bunch of points, and other people sort of tag along for the ride. I mean. Well, and Minnesota comes in after apparently looking tired last night, getting shut out. They got to turn it around against an Oilers team that has been super aggressive as of late. So, I'll get to that on the oil stream, which is kind of up here right away. Boys, the next time we all chat is Shohei Ohtani, a Toronto Blue Jay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I can't believe this is happening, man. Like,
by the next time we speak, the Kikuchi and Ohtani jerseys will already be ordered.
We said on our show today, it was Munenori Kawasaki who walked. So Kikuchi could run and Shohei could fly. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Incredible. Yeah. Listen, I mean, our group chat, I'm sure, will be a buzz here over the next couple of days. Just think about this. Ohtani signs tonight when his private jet lands, and it's definitely him on that private jet. And then the Lock Shop Partner Parlay cashes Sunday, and Monday's show for EST and WST and Lock Shop would just be,
a victory parade. Barry Horowitz and all over the place. It'd be great.
That's right. That's right. Let's go.
All right, boys.
There'll be definitely those 25-1s cash. There will be definite Barry Horowitzing and a Lock Shop victory lap unlike anything we've seen in a pretty long time. Fellas, have a great weekend. So again, Detroit minus 2.5, Bengals money line, Rams plus 7.5. I know Jake will work to get that up in the exclusives, and let's get back on a nice Sunday in the Lock Shop would be perfect heading into a big week coming up. But good stuff, guys, as always.
See you guys later. We'll talk to you Monday.
Go Pacers.
Go to hell. That's what I say to you. All right, see you later, boys. Go Pacers. My God. That's it. My goodness. Fantasy Football 5. How does Jake sneak in a Go Pacers right at the end? That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me. Unbelievable. Halliburton, you're not touching what LeBron James is doing right now. Guy looks like an absolute freak. He was incredible last night. Anyway, Fantasy Football 5, let's get into it. If you have any questions, I'm definitely not starting Trevor Lawrence this week, even if he does somehow go. You heard them say on the Lock Shop there. I haven't confirmed it for myself, but Hus was saying that he was out there in practice today. You can't start him no matter what. You're not starting CJ Beathard either. That's an unstartable game. Let's go. You can hit us up, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, or in the nasty chat today as well. If you do have any fantasy football questions, Fantasy Football 5 is brought to you by great partners at Century Casino, Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road. You can join Lieutenant Eric there every Monday and Thursday night. We are going to be having our Super Bowl party at the lounge there. We'll have more details on the Super Bowl party, but if you want to make plans to join us at the Century Casino on Fort Road for Super Bowl, mark it on the calendar. That is where we will be. What do we got for what's the Monday nighter this week? What do we got here? Oh, it's the double dip. That's right. Packers, Giants, Titans, Dolphins. So that's not bad. I like that. All right. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, or you can hit us up in the nasty chat. That one fantasy league, I'm fighting for a playoff spot this week. I started Freiermuth yesterday, and Freiermuth ended up having 3 catches for 18 yards. I started him over Njoku, so hopefully Njoku. Brian's been getting mixed in there at tight end in Cleveland. I'm not liking it right now. So that's why I decided to go with Freiermuth. I thought maybe Trubisky would get Zach together. He did not. However, my opponent yesterday had the Pittsburgh D and a Jalen Warren playing. And Jalen Warren only had 6 points, and the Pittsburgh D finished with 4 points. So I'm actually still projected to go the rest of the way. Austin Eckler, by the way, we brought him up on the lock shop. What is going on with Austin Eckler? Let me bring up Austin Eckler's game log. Like this guy, I'm not going to say Austin. Well, I mean, considering the expectations many of us had for Austin Eckler this fantasy season, I guess you can say that he's been a bust so far. I traded for Austin Eckler midway through the season in one of my leagues, and he's been he was injured early in the year, and maybe it's just a classic, hasn't been able to kind of get back up to speed here. Austin Eckler had that one good stretch this season, week 8, 9, and 10 against Chicago, the Jets, and Detroit. His last 3 weeks, Austin Eckler's last 3 weeks, they're just, Jake said it. I mean, he's not running very fast right now, which for a guy that he had a bye week, so he missed like a month of game action. But his last 3 weeks, Austin Eckler has had 7 fantasy points, 9 point, and this is in PPR. This isn't even standard league garbage. 7 fantasy points, 9.4 fantasy points, and 4.7 fantasy points. The 4.7, he had 14 carries for 18 yards against New England. And then he had 2 catches for 9 yards. Like the biggest nothing burger of the season for Austin Eckler. He had 5.6 points against Kansas City back on week 7. He had 14 carries in that game for only 45 yards as well. So I'm a little concerned with what's going on with Austin Eckler right now. That might be one of my biggest concerns down the stretch. This Ohtani watch is what's this? Ohtani's choices in. This is not a drill. Oh my goodness. I can't take it anymore, man. Shohei Ohtani going to be having sushi with Kikuchi tonight after announcing that he becomes a Toronto Blue Jays, right? Like is that what's happening here? I'm just looking on Twitter at some of the reaction to this. It's unbelievable. I know people are on the oil stream are going to lose it if we talk about this, but we'll have to keep tabs on Shohei Ohtani and exactly what's happening. Maddie, you guys must have hit on this on the hangout today. I would assume. Yeah, yeah. This is as a Yankees fan, are you kind of pissed? No, you guys got Juan Soto. Like you shouldn't be mad that the Jays are getting Ohtani, are you? Like I'm just curious.
No, I don't.
I mean, I would have been pissed
truthfully, as a Yankee fan, I don't care worry about other teams. Do I worry about what the Yankees do? They should be good enough to deal with things. And then they need to deal with that's not helping their pitching staff.
Yeah, they traded away some depth too, pitching, didn't they?
Their pitching's their issues always. It's not the hitting, it's pitching. I just want to know why Toronto. Like I'm very intrigued by this. I'm very intrigued. We have not seen this in North American sports where a player of this caliber of free agency has not chosen LA,
That's why Matt
has
Kumala,
not chosen New York,
Yeah.
has not chosen Chicago, is choosing Toronto. And I'm intrigued as to, not saying he shouldn't or anything. I'm actually very fascinated to know the reasons he is going to say Toronto. Is it the fact that it's a country that he's kind of coming to? It's the only team that plays in Canada, so he's going to have the love of a country. Is it, people saying the Dunedin,
Hus made a good point yesterday when he said, he's chosen a different path kind of along the way. He signed with the, he was with the Angels. He's not your prototypical sort of American baseball superstar.
Well, Tupsock says this is basically tired of America just in general.
Yeah.
Which actually could be something. I also think that one of the reasons, if it comes down to the Jays and the Dodgers, I won't be surprised if he's partly leaving LA because he doesn't want to do that to the Angels.
Yeah.
Go across town. I'm fast. It is. So, yeah, as a Yankee fan, it doesn't really. It's the AL East. It's always going to be competitive. You always have to be expected to be competitive, and I expect the Yankees to still build out a team that should be able to go win a World Series. As a baseball fan, I'm just very fascinated as to why Toronto and the impact that this is also going to have on hockey.
The sports editor for Dodgers Nation, JP Hornstra, has tweeted out an article that says the wait is over. Shohei Ohtani is signing with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, this is from Dodgers Nation, who basically are just admitting that they're out of it. I mean, he's going to be a Blue Jay. This is just what it's looking like. Everybody sort of just keeps getting knocked off along the way, and Shohei Ohtani might end up being a Toronto Blue Jay. My God. This is going to be if they finish with 87 wins and lose in the wild card game, I'm going to be so pissed next year. If they sign him, I'm going to eat sushi on our show on Monday morning, which is not something I usually do. All right, sorry we got tied. It's Ohtani watch, man. This is what's going to happen with Fantasy Football 5 today. By the way, Austin Eckler, get your act together. You should be able to help some teams win their leagues down the stretch. We got the Oil Stream coming up. It's game day. The Oilers play the Minnesota Wild. Looking forward to this one. Tommy Gazzola was down at the rink today, and we will dive into that. With Tommy set things up, Minnesota Wild roll in after being shut out in Vancouver. This is a real nice spot for the Oilers. Also going to build an EST parlay for that Oilers game tonight. I got it written down here in my little notepad, and nothing too crazy tonight. But I do really like the Oilers in this spot, so it'll be a major letdown if they blow it tonight. We'll get into that on the Oil Stream coming up next. If you are listening on TuneIn or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you hear a little Whale and the Wolf, and then the Oil Stream will fire up. If you're on YouTube, make sure autoplay's on. We'll carry you right on over. Oil Stream coming up with myself and Tommy in less than 3 minutes.